Hi everyone, and welcome to another video with Better Picks. Hope this finds you all well. Wanted to create a quick video this morning just as an initial introduction to color adjustments within Premiere Pro. I will first though apologize for a little bit of sound that I have in the background, having a few interesting things going on with one of the cooling fans in my system at the moment, so this is probably a little bit of sound coming through, so my apologies if that's a little bit distracting. Looking to find a solution very quickly. Alright, so Premiere Pro now has a fantastic set of features and tools built into the software for color correction, and it's been there for quite a while and is certainly a great option for initial color correction and possible color grading as well. While you can add to the feature set that's available within Premiere for color correction through various plugins, the built-in color adjustment tools are really quite powerful and are certainly worth looking at to get as much out of them as possible before you look at other options. So we're just going to start with a drone shot here that I filmed on the Gold Coast. It's about a minute long. You can see up on the project there where the clip has been imported. It's a Ultra HD clip, 24 frames per second. I've actually rendered this clip out from the original file. So I've made some slight color adjustments that are already there, but as you can see, it's fairly standard coloring and nothing too fancy that's been done to it. So for that reason, this clip is a perfect example to work with, so we can just have a look at some of the color adjustments. Of course, with a clip like this, there's not a huge number of color adjustments you're going to make, but we can certainly see the effect that those adjustments have on the clip as we make them. So just up the top here in our toolbar, if we click on color, we can see Premiere's pre-built workspace or pre-laid out workspace moves over to allow us to access the Lumetri Colour. Now you can access this in any normal workspace. It's just an effect that you can place on a clip and then edit as normal. However, for today I'm going to use the saved workspace by Premiere under Colour, which gives us immediate access to Lumetri Colour. Alright, so you can see firstly with the clip down the bottom, we need to select it for that Lumetri Colour or that series of options to become available. So once we do that, we can start to see that we have a whole bunch of tools available to us. And you can see with this layout, we still have access to the other tools that are available as well. So we can still cut and adjust clips and really do, whatever we want to do. However, for today, in this scenario, we're just looking at the Lumetri Colour. Now, many of the tools will seem very familiar for people who edit photos, particularly RAW photos through either Lightroom or Adobe Camera Raw, because a lot of the tools are very similar. In fact, that's a change that they've made to a very similar sort of layout, so that I think for people who have come from a stills background, who are moving into doing some video and film work, you're able to better integrate your workflow as being similar to your workflow with photos. Now, I am just guessing when I say that, but to me it makes sense. Alright, so let's have a look. The first option we have there, we have a series of panels. The first one being basic correction, the next one being creative, the next one being curves. Now the curves is a little bit closer to the previous or traditional methods of color correction within Premiere. Color wheels and match, HSL secondary, and the last one is vignette. So you can see there, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 panels within the Lumetri Colour options, and they are definitely all worth looking at. Now the one that we're going to look at today is just the basic correction, and that's just the initial colour correction or colour adjustments that you can make within Lumetri Colour, and this is the one where I find I do most of my work, purely because it has the tools that, as I mentioned earlier, are very similar to what you would use to adjust images. Alright, so looking firstly, we have up the top what's called an input LUT or LUT. Now, LUT or LUT stands for lookup table, and basically what it is just a series of instructions on adjustments that are automatically applied to a particular image. Now, Premiere has a bunch of defaults that are included, a bunch of LUTs as you can see there. However, you can create and add your own LUTs as well. In fact, it's become quite popular for people to develop LUTs and then sell them, which you can add to Premiere. And when you add them to Premiere, when you click on this drop-down box, they appear. So it gives you more options. So if we just click for, as an example, that first one, the Alexa default log C, you can see it changes the image drastically. Now, the reason that you've got this LUT that's described as the Alexa default log C is it's working on the assumption that you're applying this LUT or lookup table to Alexa log footage. Now, for me, that's not really a look that I would want to go for this particular clip. However, if I was filming or using log footage from an Alexa, then that's the LUT that I would certainly apply to at least get a starting point. If we go down to RE Universal, you can see it gives us a different effect again. There's a whole bunch of different results and effects that we get out of that. Now, as I mentioned, you can apply your own lookup tables. In fact, you can create your own LUTs and save them. And you can also apply your own LUTs as well, which obviously gives us the option there to browse. But basically what a LUT does is it gives us a starting point. Now, I'm going to be creating a video specific to LUTs, how to use them, how to create them, how to save them, and how to install them if you purchase a LUT from a external provider. But for now, the most important thing is just to understand that a LUT stands for a lookup table, and it's a starting point for an adjustment that you would place on a particular clip. So keep that in mind for future videos coming out. Moving down, we have white balance. So we can, very similar to our Adobe RAW converters, either through Lightroom or Adobe Camera Raw, we can select with the use of an eyedropper a particular section of the image and click, and we can get very, very different looks depending on which part we click on. Now, keep in mind that a white balance selector is designed to be used with just got to go back to the original there. It's designed to be used with a sample that is white balance neutral. Now, you can use it on anything and get all manner of different results. There's nothing wrong with that at all. As you can see, just with those two clicks, I got two very, very different results. But it's working on the assumption that it is being clicked upon a sample that is neutral in color. Generally speaking, neutral grey is traditionally how it would be used. However, it could be a white sample, it could be a black sample, or any type of grey to give you that starting point of a suggested white balance. Now for me, I prefer to make my white balance adjustments using the sliders because it means that I can refine that colour a little bit more specifically to the clip and to the result that I'm trying to achieve. So if we start with temperature, and if we slide that to the right, exactly the same as the raw converter, you can see we're going to get a warmer color temperature and a warmer result. Exactly the same if we go the opposite way, we're going to get a cooler temperature and a cooler result. So that adjustment affects directly your white balance and color temperature. Tint is very much the same. If we slide to the right, it's going to apply more magenta, and to the left, it's going to apply more cyan. And you can see that effect taking effect there very quickly. Now, my recommendation and the terminology that I generally use for any adjustment is season to taste. Exactly the same as if you're cooking a meal, adding salt and pepper. You season it to taste. You apply slowly until you get the result that you want. I know that's a bit of a different analogy, but it's one that I like to use. Again, with the temperature, you may want to have a very warm result. You may want to have a very cool result, but just applying that adjustment slowly and gradually means that you will be able to refine your results and refine that adjustment right down to where you want it to be. Excellent. We've got a little refresh or reset effect up here that basically takes everything back to neutral, keeping in mind that if you've applied 4 effects and you want to reset just one of them, then my suggestion would be to reset just that one, because if you do hit that reset button, it will reset all of them. Alright, so that's white balance, temperature and tint. If we move down to tone, we've got 6 different options there: exposure, contrast, highlights, shadows, whites and blacks. Now again, these are exactly the same as the adjustments you would see in any RAW conversion. Keep in mind that for the majority of cameras that we use, particularly this one, this is a Phantom 4 Advanced drone, we're not working with raw footage. So the effect that we're going to have on that clip is not going to be the same as working with a raw clip. We certainly have flexibility and capacity to make adjustments to this clip, but keep in mind that you won't have the same power and control as when you're working with either a raw still image or raw footage. Now more and more film cameras and video cameras are coming out with the option for higher data rate footage and better codecs that give you more flexibility in color grading, and some are coming out with raw, cinema DNG and compressed raw options, which do certainly give you better flexibility when it comes to color adjustments in post. However, for the vast majority of cameras that most of us use, we're not working with raw footage, so we won't have the same flexibility as we do when we're shooting raw stills. So keep that in mind when you're shooting. It's important to get your white balance and all of your adjustments in camera as correct as possible. Alright, moving back to these adjustments. So under tone, exposure is purely image brightness or exposure. So if we go to the left, it's going to make the image darker. If we go to the right, it's going to make the image brighter. So you can see that those adjustments happen quite rapidly, and you again just need to season to taste and take it quite slowly. Now you can click and drag on those sliders, or you can hover over the value on the left hand side, click and then drag, and you can see that the mouse actually disappears, but you still have that capacity for adjustment. Contrast is exactly the same as any image adjustment, so slide it to the left and there's a reduction in contrast, slide it to the right and there's an increase in contrast. Alright, so that's pretty self-evident. Highlights, slide to the left and we see a reduction in highlights only. Slide to the right and we see an increase in the brightness or exposure value of highlights only. Same for shadows, slide to the left and the shadows become darker, and slide to the right, shadows become brighter. I'm just going to reset that clip so that we get back to 0 with everything. Looking at the whites, again, whites, slid to the left, the white values become darker, slid to the right, the white values, or the brighter parts of the image become brighter, and exactly the same with blacks. Slide to the left and the blacks become darker. You can see that's creating some quite dramatic effects down on the bottom there of the image, and slide to the right and the blacks become brighter. Now there is no set rules on what results you get. It's always going to be the best option to create an image or footage that you want to create. So keep in mind that the results that you get are the results. So keep in mind that the results you get should be the results that you're going for. The clip that I'm using today, it's a very basic clip. It's under mid-morning sunshine. It's not really anything that's going to be super spectacular or out of the ordinary in terms of adjustments or color correction or adjustments that we would make to such an image. However, just looking at those various tools there, you can see the difference that each of them make. So certainly, depending on what adjustments you make, obviously affects the results that you get. The last one that I want to look at down the bottom is saturation, and that's the same as saturation when you're adjusting an image. So decreased saturation is going to decrease the intensity of color. In fact, if we go down to the far left hand side of that slider, it takes us to a complete black and white image or monochrome image. If we go up to the far right hand side, you can see it greatly increases the intensity of that color and the strength of that color. So we're just going to take that back to 100, which unlike the other adjustments, 100 is the starting point. In fact, I'm just going to click on that, type in 100, and we're back to square one. Now, just above saturation, I just want to talk about these two tabs as options. Again, reset takes us back to the original image with no adjustments applied. But if I click on auto, it through its algorithms that Adobe have created, it just makes some minor adjustments on what it sees without actually knowing what's in the clip. It just makes some adjustments based on what it sees as the best adjustments to make. Now, this is just purely through image learning and the algorithms that are built into Premiere Pro. However, that may be a good option for you to start with, just to at least have a starting point for, to get you on your way to making those color adjustments. However, as you can see, don't be concerned, and you can go back and make further adjustments if you want to, if you're not getting the results you want. Keep that in mind. The beauty of any video editing, and certainly these color corrections that you're making, is that it's not actually permanently applying those adjustments to the clip that you're working with. So you can render out a final video from the adjustments that we've made right now, and that would make it permanent because you're creating a new clip with those adjustments applied. However, as you're editing a video project, you may want to come back and make further adjustments or do further refinements, particularly with your color, which is something that I like to do. The nice thing about this process is we're applying adjustments to a clip, but it's not being permanently applied, it's not being baked in. So it means that you can come back, reopen the project at a different time, and completely adjust those color settings again. These adjustments are not permanent, so you can readjust in the future if you want, simply by going back into that video project. Hope you've enjoyed this video, the first of a number of videos that we'll be looking at with color adjustments within Premiere Pro. Keep an eye out for the next video coming out, and hope to see you again in the future. As always, take care.